Hey guys, it's Mike here. Welcome to Man Talk Monday. I want to share with you today about a value that is really central to my own life as a man, and talk to you about why I think it's really important for all men to have some version of this value in their own life. In my life, this value goes by several different names. I call it sometimes sacred space. I call it one, O-N-E. Sometimes I call it hierophany, which is an old Greek word, and sometimes I call it the thin place. The thin place comes from an old Celtic Christian notion that there are these places in the world where the veil between the physical world and the spiritual world grows especially thin. And you can feel the spiritual realm kind of break through into the physical realm. And I think we've all experienced moments like that, like when you have been in a particularly beautiful cathedral, or maybe in some place in nature, or you've been with someone that you love in a particular moment of intimacy or connection, and you have sensed this kind of holiness, this kind of sacredness that has saturated the space. And like the veil between whatever is happening in the physical world grows thin between that and whatever is happening in the spiritual realm beyond. Those thin places are powerful and transcendent, and they create the potential for transformation to occur, for healing to occur, for joy to occur in our lives. I think it's one of the main reasons we go to concerts, or we go to parties, or we go for bike rides in the high country of Colorado. Mountain biking for me has always been something like that, like a cultivator of thin places for me. Or road biking does the same. Hiking is similar. So some of the ways that I actually cultivate thin places in my own life are through those activities, but also through simple things like having a morning ritual where I get up in the morning and pour a cup of coffee, turn on some quiet music, light a candle, and I sit in silence and breathe deeply and welcome the day in my own heart, and I welcome God into the moment, and I just spend some time listening for God to speak to me, and I journal whatever it is that I hear. I do that as a daily practice. Sometimes it's through a conversation with a friend where we come together to listen as we're talking with one another, and just listening for that third voice, the voice of the divine, the voice of deep wisdom, the voice of God, to come into the conversation and speak to us and cultivate that thin place in that moment. Sometimes it's just a simple matter of stealing out from whatever busyness I'm involved with, go outside, get quiet, get still, look up into the clouds, and just watch the day. Just be in the day for a few minutes and be present to it and listen to it and pay attention to it and notice the presence of God in that moment. Those kinds of things are the ways that I cultivate it. And I actually believe that cultivating thin places in my life is critical to my thriving, to the thriving of my soul as a man. And I actually believe it's essential to becoming the man that I'm meant to be. And the reason being that I think those thin place moments represent for me my connection to spirit, my connection to God, and to the power of God, the power that I need to overcome the struggles that I face, to break through the places where I feel stuck, or to win the battles that I'm fighting. I cannot do those things in my own strength. I need a supernatural resource to draw from in that, and the cultivation of thin places in my life is the primary way that I am able to tap into resources that are larger, deeper, truer, more powerful than myself in order to overcome and to win in the battles that I face. That's why this value is also a core value for the BraveHeart Men. It is our first value, in fact. Let me read to you how we phrase it within the BraveHeart community. We call the value simply the statement, we cultivate thin places. It is the act of cultivating thin places is where heaven and earth kiss, where the kingdom of God breaks through, where the veil between the spiritual and the material grows thin and permeable. This is the place we love to operate, where God moves freely and transformation happens. We really do believe those thin places in our lives are where we gain access to the power and wisdom that we need to become the men we're meant to be and to fight the battles that we're called to fight and to win them. We also believe that those thin place encounters, those thin place resources are essential to our ability to connect with other men and to create the communities that we desperately need as men in order to stay in the fight. We can't fight this battle alone as men. We need other men. And that's deep spiritual connection with other men happens through our shared communion around these thin places. When those things happen, we find that our bond with other men deepens, and that bond becomes a resource for us that we can lean into and depend upon. And so I'm sharing this with you both as just a way of telling you this is one of the foundational things that make up BraveHeart Men, is that we cultivate thin places. That's what we're up to. But also as an invitation to you to think about cultivating thin places in your own life. And to, first of all, I think just begin to pay attention, because probably you're already experiencing some thin places from time to time in your own world, in your own days. And so I think the first step to begin to cultivate thin places, these access to resources, these spiritual resources that are in your world, is to simply pay attention to when they're there. And so to stop and notice when you sense the veil between the material and the spiritual growing thin, and to pause and say, wow, this is a thin place, and to stop and pay attention to what that experience is like for you. And to, in those moments even, to notice what it is you're drawing from it, what it is you need, what it is that your spirit is wanting from that experience, or what resource it's pulling from it. Is it courage? Is it faith? Is it healing? Is it comfort? Is it a question that you want to ask or want to have answered? What is it that your soul is reaching out for in those moments? Important to know. However, you can go beyond simply noticing where thin places are happening. You can actually begin to actively cultivate thin places in your life. I've already mentioned the ways that I do it in my own world. It's very simple, but cultivating a thin place really only requires 3 elements, and they all start with P, so you can remember it pretty easily. The first one is presence. No multitasking, no distractions. Put down your phone. You can only experience a thin place when you're fully there, when you're fully present. Just get into your body and just be where you are. That is essential to experiencing a thin place. There's no telling how many thin place opportunities we drive past or rush past in our busyness that are just sitting there waiting for us. So presence, getting fully present. The second P is pace. And this is not about slowing down your body. I already mentioned that I can go road biking or mountain biking or hiking or do something really active as a way to cultivate a thin place. but it is about slowing down your mind. It is about slowing down your heart, the pace of your thoughts, slowing down your monkey mind so you're not bouncing around all over the place up there, being still in your thoughts so that you have the ability to do the third thing, which is paying attention. So there's presence and pace, and then paying attention. Paying exquisite attention to what is happening right here and right now where you are. Being curious and practicing the art of simply noticing what is going on around you. And particularly paying attention to the presence of God that becomes apparent to you in this present moment. Where are you noticing God showing up? Where is the Spirit emerging in this moment where you're becoming aware of the divine presence in this moment? That's the key. And then simply to let it unfold in whatever way it needs to, by way of a song, by way of silence, by way of a question, by way of simply receiving the moment for what it is. Make the cultivation of thin places a regular practice in your life. I promise you, if you do this, it will be one of the most powerful gifts that you can give to yourself as a man. That's my sharing with you today. One of our core values in BraveHeart, we cultivate thin places. And my challenge to you today is to look for ways to begin to do that in your own life as well. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon in another video.